Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us to Breaking Through Barriers to Abundance conference. I wanted to do this conference today because of everything that everybody generally goes through barrier-wise in their life, and especially now with everything that everybody's going through with COVID. So I have an amazing panel of experts today that are helping us to go through and share their experiences and with their barriers. And my first guest today is Steph Palermo. She is just an amazing coach and author. And Steph, how about you come on and share with us what you do? Good morning. How are you?
Oh, you're muted. Good morning. Sorry, I was
That's
muted.
Okay.
Am I still muted?
No, we hear you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
I'm thrilled to be here.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you have experienced a huge barrier in your life from day one, haven't you?
Oh my goodness. I know. Yes. So I was born with a rare disorder, Poland syndrome, and I'm right side affected. There's about 7,000 rare diseases and disorders out there, and 1 in 10 has a rare disorder. And so the problem with rare disorders and diseases is doctors don't know what they're dealing with. But for me, I had to deal with not just the inability to do tasks that people take for granted, like peel potatoes, blow drying my hair, makeup, all the way up to when I had my babies, making sure when I was holding them and bathing them. I mean, I was a little afraid. So I dealt with that, but then I had to deal with, kids and, people being mean and being left out, not being treated the same as everybody else.
Right.
Right down to name calling.
Right. Yeah, I could not imagine.
And then on top of it, I'm, from a crazy Sicilian family, and and you put all that together, and it was one hot mess for choice making in my in my life. And I think sometimes we make we kind of set ourselves up to make certain choices, and then we have to live with those consequences. And then you hopefully somewhere down the road you go, oh my gosh, this isn't working for me.
Right. So tell me, how did you obviously you had to overcome that barrier from the very beginning. How did your family help you to, or did how did you? That's huge.
Well, if anybody knows Sicilians, they got your back. So, my father would have probably hurt somebody if he found out that I was being mistreated. But you didn't really, you almost didn't talk about it. And I think you'll hear that from anybody who was raised in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. You didn't go home and tell your mother, you just dealt. Just dealt with it. But my parents did the best that they could with what they had. They got me to proper doctors who could help me with surgeries and things like that. And I had to deal with that, the pain of surgeries where I had bone grafts and skin grafts and all of that to help me have a better function of my hand. And my last surgeries were, they cracked the bone in my arm and they put a vise in, and my mother had to turn it every day.
Oh my goodness.
Until it hurt, so that it would give me length. And then they took a bone out of my leg and put it in my arm to replace the missing bone. So that was the last surgery. And my dad said, do you want to do this anymore? And I said, Daddy, I said, I'm never going to look like everybody else. I'm done.
Wow. That's great. That's very inspiring.
Yeah. So I was done. I was done.
So you accepted yourself at a little girl, or how old were you?
I was 10 when that happened. I'm not sure I accepted myself in terms of feeling good with everybody else, but I knew I didn't want to go through any more pain. It was not just the physical pain, because you know what? I have a very high threshold for pain at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, when I had 3 babies, 3 out of the 4 babies without an epidural. I have a very high threshold for pain, but it was the emotional part of it. I had to go back to school with all kinds of wires hanging out of me, and not being able to do stuff, and not be able to play in the playground like everybody else. And people forget that with a lot of rare diseases, there's people out there that can't live a full life,
Right.
or at least the life that you think is normal,
Right.
and that's painful.
Wow. So tell me, so going from you and your experience, tell me what you think is one major or one main method that you believe everybody could use to break through a barrier in their life, whether it be their health and well-being, their love and relationships, their wealth.
I have to say, for me, I was determined to be okay with me. And it was that determination that catapulted me to get into therapy. I knew when I had kids, when my children, I panicked when I had to go in and be like mystery reader, because I was afraid when my kids were going to suffer with other kids saying things to them about me. But I did it. And I found myself sort of isolating sometimes, because I was afraid to be around kids, because they start screaming things out. They're just little kids.
Exactly.
And I would put myself in situations where I wouldn't have to be like that. I mean, it was hard to go to church. You have to do a sign of peace with people, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta shake this kid's hand. What is he gonna do in church? He's gonna start screaming. And so and so I struggled with that. And because of that, I wasn't living. That's not a full life. I wasn't living. I found I'm such a people person, and I love people. And when you start to isolate because of stuff that's going on in your life, you need to know that that's a red flag.
So how does somebody start to be okay with themselves? How does somebody? I agree with you. It needs to come from within and start there. But where does somebody start? How do you start?
I want to sort of little backpedal. You need to, when you listen to your body, because we ignore stuff and we don't feel right in our body. We actually have physical symptoms. Your stomach is upset. You might have, you might shake. You might be nervous. You might, have a heart palpitations, things like that. So you got to listen to your body and say, why is this happening to me? And then you'll say, oh, I'm uncomfortable in this situation. Why am I uncomfortable in this situation? Well, I'm on a date with this man, and he likes me, and I'm not used to being treated nicely. Why? You start asking yourself questions. Same thing.
Mhm.
I was not right. I actually just got into therapy, to be honest with you. And I went into therapy, and I was in therapy. In fact, I still will, when I go to Atlanta, I'll go jump into go get an appointment with my therapist to catch up. That helped me. Reading good books, aligning with supportive people, really spending time with yourself, trying to figure out what it is that you need for yourself. Extreme self-care. I think the therapy is key. whether it's a therapist, a life coach, a spiritual guide, anything like that, that, could help you to see yourself a little bit clearer. Because really the key is self-knowledge. So self-knowledge is the key, but sometimes we're blinded by ourselves. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was with the spiritual director, and I said, I feel really good. I think everything's okay. And he said, I don't know. I think there's something that's blocking you. Now, at the time I was married, and normally my husband, when he said a couple of little nuggets to me that changed my life, in the sense that I said to him, he said there's something that bothered me, and I think I have a handle on stuff. He said, and this is what he said to me: what is your worst nightmare? And I went, oh my God, public humiliation. The kids always called me out on and I was embarrassed publicly.
Right.
And I said, I love the microphone. I love television. I love it all. And I'm terrified of public humiliation and being embarrassed in front of my family, friends, or strangers because of my hand or because of something. So maybe, what is your worst nightmare? Start asking you, what's the worst case scenario for you? These are good questions to ask yourself.
Wow, that's great. Wow, that's very insightful. So I want to ask you, what inspires you? What you've had all of this, these barriers and blocks in your life, and what inspires you and makes you feel your best self?
Really taking care of my body. I like to sleep. I don't feel great when I don't eat well, or if I drink too much alcohol, and I love all that, but it's just, I really like, right? And I like, so feeling good physically is very important to me. That helps me. When we were in lockdown and I was alone in my condo for a couple of months, I didn't drink because I was afraid that if I did that, I wasn't going to feel good and I wouldn't work. And if I didn't work, I would be depressed. And so I made sure that I felt physically good, so that when I sat down to work every day, the depression of the situation wasn't going to overwhelm me because I felt physically good.
Right.
So that's very important. And then I engage in activities that lift my spirits. So I'll cook. I love to cook. I cook. I like to travel. When I spend time in Sicily, it's the absolute best for me. I love it so much. But I also, when I cook, also I want to go back to that. I cook in Sicily. I have my friends over and I'll cook. But I host Sunday dinner, like a typical Sicilian Sunday dinner with my family here, maybe once a month, with my cousins, the kids, everybody. I said, no, we're doing this. We're going back to the way we were. And it's sort of melding old school values with the way we are living today.
Right.
So yeah, so that inspires me. Like, I love to have, I remember I was here with my family, and I just looked at the down the long table. I just teared up because I was so happy to see everybody there, and they were so excited.
That is Italian. That definitely.
Yes.
Of that, definitely. So I have to ask you, give me your aha moment, because I want to hear it. I love to hear how you found your gift. How did you know, or what your aha moment was about your gift? How did you know?
Well, you mean being an empath and a healer?
Yes, and I want to know about that too. if you don't mind sharing.
So I always knew things were going to happen before they happened. And I just thought everybody saw what I saw. And that's typical of gifts. So people who have charismatic gifts tend to think the world sees what they see, but it's not true. So I always knew things were going to happen. I always was very connected to the spiritual side, spirits and things like that. I just didn't know what to call it. And someone said to me, "Oh, you're an empath." And I said, "What is that?" She goes, "You feel everybody's feelings." And I was like, "Yes." And I can be drained I have to protect myself because I don't watch any TV. I'm very, I'm very protective of my gifts.
So when did you, I want to interrupt you for a minute. When did you start or have you always had those?
I've always I've always known things, and I've always felt very deeply. I was always my entire life. As far as the healing goes, I actually heard it in prayer, and then I just started to ask people if they were, something was wrong with them. Can I put my hands on you? And they would have relief.
What a gift.
So, and when I'm in Sicily, they love it because they're like all into it. And so, but yeah, so like right now, as we're talking about it, I feel tingles.
Oh, I love that.
So, yeah, but it's not, I feel like, it's my presence happens to be healing and soothing. People, I had somebody here for lunch on Saturday for business, and she's like, "I feel so like at ease and soothe." Like it was just, because that's just what I do. I you know I'm a healer, but it's an all-round healer. It's a healer of hearts.
Oh, I love that.
And so yeah, and like I encourage. I'm a soul reader. I can read souls, so I understand. I didn't know what it was called. I just was like, I would just know things about people that I didn't know how I knew them. And then I started to sort of, we have control. We have some control over our gifts. So I started to hone in and say, "Oh, well, our soul is the driver, our body is the car. If we're on our soul's path, we're driving on the right road. And people are often off the path, and they just need a little help. The problem is most people are a little afraid of that. They're a little afraid to know, like, if you take typical biblical prophecy, the old Testament, they would say, if you don't stop the behavior, you're going to end up in exile. Well, then they killed the prophet and they ended up in exile anyway. It's sort of like that. I'm going, okay, you've got this going on. If you don't stop it, this isn't going to work out for you. And that's the stuff that I know. And it's not like a psychic, where a psychic will say, "Oh, well, you're going to be tall, dark, and handsome in 3 months. And then you might lose your job, but don't worry about it. There's going to be another offer coming," things like that. It's not like that for me. I'm like, okay, you know what? You're feeling misunderstood. You don't really like what's happening in your home. And the people around you are not supportive. So let's see how we can get you on track. Like that's what I do. And people don't want to hear that sometimes.
Right.
But if you want to be the happiest, then I have to say this. I mean, then listen to me. Or listen to somebody like me, because that's where you'll be the happiest, is if you get on that path to the right version of, the best version of yourself.
And so it took you into starting you started your business, right?
I started my business. I was writing, and I was afraid to say what the gifts were. And my business coach was saying, "You've got to own this. You've got to own this." And I would tell her, "Oh, you don't know this happened to me." And I told this person, blah, blah, blah. She goes, "Yeah, you got to own those gifts. You got to own them." And I was a little nervous about it, because here's the thing. I never expressed it before. So now you have people that know me for 50 years saying, oh, all of a sudden you can read souls. I'm like, no, I could just, I just didn't say it. So, that's kind of how it is. And yeah, and I'm always kind of shocked. Like I will be doing a Facebook Live and then I'll pull a grace card like out of the middle of the deck and it's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going, you can't make this stuff up.
Exactly. That's a gift. Definitely.
Yeah.
That is so special.
And I cry because that's what happens. I start crying when I'm like, if I start to feel what's going on, and I know, I'm channeling, and I just get all emotional. So that's
oh, I love that. So how long did you have this gift and you kept it suppressed?
Oh,
So
my whole life. I'm 54. I'm 54. And but I think the healing part of it, I didn't know until I was in my I was 30-ish. The healing part, I didn't understand it. And I still didn't understand it until, I didn't know that it was part of it. So until I was about 30, 33, around there. So, but still, even with the healing, I never said anything. I didn't say anything until recently because, and, like my girlfriend, we were down in Florida, her feet were swollen. I go, here, let me just, and she was like, oh, that feels so good.
That is so great.
So
how does everybody get a hold of you? You're in between Boston and Atlanta.
Well, yeah, I was between, I have my home is in Boston. I will be spending some time in Sicily as well.
That's right. In September, you were telling me about that.
Yes, I'm going to be offering a healing retreats starting in September because I think that'll be a good time for people to come. Hopefully everybody will feel good and safe to go. Of course, we'll adapt if necessary. So I'm offering 2 different weeks in September, and they're healing retreats. I'm going to add on some extra tour days for some fun stuff, so that make sure everyone gets a chance to really experience Sicily. It's the most beautiful place and the most wonderful people in the entire world. I love them dearly. So those will be healing retreats. We're going to go to sacred sites. I'll do some healing stuff with people, one-on-ones, things like that while we're there. So yes, and I'm going to be doing those 3 times a year at the change of the seasons, fall, spring, and then summer, starting in September.
I'm excited for that.
And I have a membership community for those people that aren't ready for one-on-ones, but want to be part of something and learning, where I offer monthly workshops, opportunities for one-on-ones with me, weekly book discussions, daily channeled messages from the universe, things like that, monthly roundtables. That's my exclusive membership community. I also I only allow 5 one-on-one clients because of how much I give.
Right.
And so I only have a few spots left for one-on-one coaching. So I offer that, and then the retreats. And of course, you can reach me. My email, steph@juststeph.com. I'm on the web. Juststeph.com is my website. I have, this is my 3rd book. It's not personal, Sunny, it's business.
I was going to say, you have a free gift to offer everybody, don't you?
Well, that's my 1st book. The Only Way Is Up. And so, yes, that everyone's going to get a chance to, you can have that download. That was my 1st book that I wrote. And so I have my book, and I'm on Facebook, Just Steph. I have a free community, Get Real with Just Steph. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, iTunes. I have a podcast on iTunes.
You're a busy lady. But yeah, you can definitely find you. And you have that talk show still going, don't you?
Yeah, I have it on hold for a minute because I'm trying to find a radio home in Boston, and I'll probably do some podcasts. I'll do more podcasting now. Uh, I just love a studio.
You.
I do love a studio. I enjoy that, and it can be repurposed for so many things. So if you're an entrepreneur and you get in the radio, anybody can be in the radio. If you want to pay for airtime, anybody can be on the radio. It's a matter of getting sponsors and things like that. But I can repurpose it for and put it on YouTube and iTunes and things like that. So it's a lot of fun, and it's fun for me. I love it. Love it.
Great.
So yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for being here. Maria, did we have any questions from the audience that anybody was asking? I wanted to say that we were holding all of our questions for the end, but I just was so excited to have you on.
That's okay. No, it's exciting. I love this. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to you.
We have one question, ladies.
Oh, okay.
From Tanya. She was asking, a lot of synchronicities happen when you're on your path, hence the card, right?
Hence the, I'm sorry.
Hence the card.
Oh, you mean like the grace card?
She's asking a follow-up question.
Okay. Well, yeah, I think that, there's no such thing as coincidences. I think everything happens in divine time and order. And when you first start making the shift in your life and in your thinking, the universe opens up and is so excited that you're finally aware of how amazing you are, that you'll be, things will be poured out onto you. And I almost think they're always there, but I think we're finally aware of it. And, so we're like, oh my gosh, this person just showed up and Tracy reached out to me and wanted me to be on her show. Like that's me being open to the universe to be, to tell everybody my story. Things like that. Things just happen but you're more aware. So yes, definitely they happen. So
I think you're right about that. Definitely. Well, is there anything on your heart that you feel that I didn't quite cover that's important?
I'd like to say one thing. The one thing that I stress with my audiences, my clients, is that until you recognize how amazing you are, and you step into your power and your gifts and own it and live aligned and a purpose-driven life, the universe is missing a piece of the puzzle. And we're missing you, and I'm missing. I need you to be you. I need you to be the fullest you can be, because we all need each other. And this is where we're wired to live in community and to be of service to one another. And by walking in your authentic shoes, you are participating in the co-creation of the universe.
Yes, I love that. That's so true.
I hope somebody wrote that down.
We haven't recorded. That's great. Well, I thank you so much. Thanks so much for being here. You were such a blessing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You are. So have a great time today. Enjoy all the speakers. I'm sure everybody's amazing, amazing, amazing.
Thank you so much. And we will talk soon. Don't forget to let me know when you are coming into town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Oh my gosh, Steph was amazing. Our next guest is Daniel Magenna. He is absolutely so inspiring. He has been, he's a philanthropist. He is a best-selling novel. He's he's a best-selling author. He's a reality transferring practitioner. He's been on all over major networks. He's just absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait to have him on. Welcome, Daniel. How are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me all about yourself. Tell our listeners, what have you been up to lately?
You know, it's crazy how things kind of unfold. I was actually speaking with the guy who does a lot of my back office stuff, and he was just reminding me just how far we've come over the last few years of doing the work that we're doing now. Because, you know, I made a transition over from my consulting business. I had a bit of an adventure with fate saying, this is where you should be, and me saying, but I'm doing something else. And you know, just making that leap and just saying, no, this is what I'm going to do, and just watching the abundance and just the happiness just continue to unfold and grow from there. It's just been really magical, and I just got reminded of that today.
So you're a reality transferring practitioner.
Yeah, reality transferring. Yeah, that's a new
Tell
one
me,
on my
will you
docket.
explain what that is, please?
So it's really weird. So reality surfing is just kind of making its way over to more of the mainstream now. It's a modality that was created by a Russian guy called Vadim Zeland, I think about 20 odd years ago, something like that. He started putting the information out. So my wife's actually Russian American. So what's really interesting is when I started talking about this, she's like, oh yeah, I heard about that guy. Like he's like really famous over Russia or whatever. But it's kind of been making its way over to the English speaking world for the last 5 or 6 years. And I was certified last year as an instructor. So I'm actually certified now to teach it and coach people on it. I actually did it more to integrate it into what I do with the work that I teach. But essentially, what we're looking at is a very practical way of creating your reality. Vadim speaks about the nature of reality, the construct of reality, how reality is formed, and how we can really deliberately move through reality, creating it as if our life was a movie that we're writing the script for. It's really cool stuff.
Oh, wow. That does sound very interesting. Oh my goodness. So I want to dig right in, and I want to ask you, how did you find your gift? How did you come across your gift?
So the real underpinning of everything I teach and talk about is my beyond intention paradigm. And beyond intention actually came through a lot of pain and a lot of struggle. And it's basically the result of me navigating all of that. The real journey, I like to say that my life's kind of like a trilogy of books or movies, whichever one you prefer. You know, for the fancy people, it's books, but for the rest of us, it's movies. And this last part of the trilogy has been me sharing beyond intention. But the first trilogy was me recognizing that I needed beyond intention. The second part was actually me creating it, and now it's sharing it. But essentially what happened is that the second time that I made and lost everything, I was 24 years old. And I looked at the decimation that was around me on the back of failing so spectacularly. And I just said, you know what? I don't think there's really much point me continuing here. You know, I'd really quite arrogantly been like, you know, I was young. I hadn't had enough adversity. I hadn't been tried and tested. So I was like, yeah, I know everything. And because I got success quite young, you know, the whatnot. And I was like, oh God, I got it all wrong. And I looked at it and I was like, whoa, have I been deluded? When I was looking at all this manifesting and intention stuff, had I been like living in this fantasy world? Because I was looking and it had worked, but it had stopped working. And I really just thought the best thing that I could do was just not be here anymore, you know? And so I actually was like, okay, I'm going to commit suicide. And the only reason why I didn't make an attempt was because I got scared that I was going to fail. Not that I was scared of like the other side. I was like, oh, but God, like at the moment, everything I'm doing is failing. And I didn't have a surefire way. I've seen too many people with cut marks on their wrist. It's like, I don't want to walk around with like these medals to say that I'd failed at something else. I didn't want to wake up in a hospital bed with everyone standing around me feeling sorry for me. I just wanted to do it. Thankfully, in the UK where I'm from, you know, you can't just walk up to a gun shop and get a gun. Only the police and the army have got them, and not even all of the police have got them, like only certain types of police. So I was like, okay, well, I need to fix what went wrong with my model of manifesting so that I can make sure that I don't mess up my suicide attempt. And so I went off on this journey to work out what had gone wrong with all the manifesting I'd done before so that I could successfully end my life. That was the mission. But the crazy thing was, I spent so much time polluting myself because I was really obsessed with this. When I say obsessed, I mean obsessed. Reading, listening to tapes, going back over my notes of stuff that I looked at before. I was studying the lives of successful people. I really, really went in. I went down the rabbit hole with the mystics, and I was reading ancient texts, and I was learning to transliterate ancient languages so that I could make sure that I got the meaning of words right. And I spent so much time polluting myself, all this positivity, that I accidentally actually changed my intention without even realizing it. So there wasn't like something where I woke up one day, it's like, oh, you know, after all that, I choose life. It was kind of like, I kind of just drifted into, oh, I haven't really thought about killing myself for a while. I haven't done a check on that. Okay, that's interesting.
Look at that.
And I kind of just bimbled along. And then things started to come together. I started to rebuild my life. Got a job in a call center, working minimum wage. I think I was doing the same customer service call over and over again from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till 9 o'clock at night. But then in the morning, I was going to the gym. I was working on building up my business, and things just started to come together. Within a year, that business was making 6 figures a year. And then it started to make 6 figures a month after a few years. And I took on partners and we expanded. And that's where I was when I got to the point where it's like, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe all of this wasn't just for me, because by this time I was like, okay, I don't want anything to do with anybody else. I'm just happy in my little bubble. I had my lovely home. I had a few watches. I got a tailor. I travel first class. I can wake up and go where I want to go. This is me. I like my life. But then
So it's all about you.
Exactly. And that's where I was like, do you know what? The signs kept coming in that I didn't go through all of this for nothing. Maybe it's time to start sharing it with people. And that's what the last bit of the trilogy has been, what I do now.
Wow, that's an amazing story. So up until then, it was all about you. And now it's sharing your story or sharing what you've learned. Yes. And that leads me to my next question. What is one major method that you feel or believe will help people break through any type of barrier that they may be having, well, whether it be their health and relationships, their time and money freedom, their wealth, you know, any of those 4 main quadrants? One main, if there is one main.
I think actually the one main thing I would put forward is that there isn't one thing. And this is, this is what's come to be like a big part of what I talk about now in my books and podcasts and all that kind of good stuff, and that I write about. It's that we often get caught in this one area: the latest business strategy, the latest dating strategy, right? The latest health fad, or the newest meditation, or the newest guru, or the newest ancient text that got discovered with the secrets of the universe. But it's taking all of that and recognizing that as humans, we don't just operate on one level of density. We have a physical body, we have a mind that can have impact on our matter, and we have an emotional state that affects our thinking processes too. So we need to look at what we're feeling, what we're thinking, and what we're doing holistically, and making sure that all of that is specifically directly in line with the intention that we want.
Well, that's good. That's why I said, I knew that you were going to answer in some fashion that way. That's why I said, if there was. Now, what inspires Daniel to be his best self?
Well, now I've got new inspiration. I've got a 10-week-old son. So like now I've got like a,
Congratulations.
I look like a whole new, they've got everything now. I get to see that every day. But, you know, it's having everything mean something. You know, like you said, I spent so much time doing it for myself, so much time egoically chasing after stuff for myself. Thank you. And then now it's like, you look at everything that worked and didn't work, and it's just asking myself, is there a way that all of this can have a wider meaning? And the most wonderful wider meaning, I think, is something that adds to the life of others, contributes to the overall universal consciousness that we're all a part of, I mean, like I said, now I've got Ethan. It's like, yeah, like him and his kids and his kids' kids. What can I do now that's going to make the world a better place for them to exist and operate in? Something for them to, because at the end of the day, we're going to pass on, we're not going to be here forever. But what are we leaving as a legacy for others that are going to follow? How are we going to be remembered?
Yeah, that's so true.
Mm.
So who has been your most influential people or resources that have helped you along your journey?
I think at different points in my journey, in the different movies, I had like a different major influence. And what I now have is I've got 5 core pillars of my life. It's an idea that I teach called the Ideal Life Blueprint. And what the Ideal Life Blueprint invites us to do is to look at 5 core foundation areas for our life. And when we've got those 5 core foundation areas, then we're saying to ourselves, okay, against the backdrop of these areas, what is one key text that's like my textbook, my guide for that? But then also, who's my role model for that? So at the moment, I've got financial freedom, loving relationships, expansion of consciousness, meaning and purpose, and personal power, pride in myself. And for each one of those, I've got a different role model. So for financial freedom, for example, it's a fictional character from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's a guy called Arcad. When it comes down to love and relationships, it's a dear friend of mine, Chris Kelker, who I just love the way that he shows up in relationship. When it comes down to meaning and purpose, I love Michael Singer's story from the Surrender Experiment, which also happens to be my textbook for that. So for the different areas of my life, I actually have a different role model. I don't have like an overarching one. I've got people that I look to and seek to model in terms of how they show up in that particular area.
Wow, that's great. And I have to ask you,
Mm-hmm.
what was the most important thing that you've learned in life? Whether it be, when you were younger or nowadays, what was your life like before you learned it?
Mm-hmm.
And what is your life like now?
There's a meme, and I love to make reference to this meme because I remember when I saw it, it made me laugh so much. I saw this about, I don't know, 5 years ago, something like that. And there's this guy staring up at the heavens and he says, "Lord, save me from all of my haters." And the other half is like God looking down saying, "Dude, nobody's thinking about you." Because we spend so much energy, right, obsessing about what other people are thinking and our projections about what they're thinking. But people are generally really kind of caught up in their own stuff. They've got stuff going on in their own lives, right?
Yeah.
Like if we've got stuff going on, what I found time and time again is the only people that actually involve themselves in your stuff is because they're either running away from their own stuff or they're projecting their own stuff. So it's still their own stuff. It's not even about you. And even when I look at, the shame and stuff that had led me to wanting to commit suicide, it's because I cared so much about what other people thought, or should I say, my projections about what other people thought, that I actually put more stock on that than me actually being worthy of living myself.
Yeah.
So a big part of my journey has been focusing on what I want to contribute, how I want to show up, how I feel about me, how I feel about life, and remembering that everybody's got their own stuff going on. And that allows me to be more compassionate when people behave in not so nice ways, but also allows me to be more compassionate with myself when I start to have feelings and emotions and stuff going on about other people's responses or about how other people are showing up. So just kind of like leaving other people to live their life and focusing on what I'm contributing to the world as I live mine.
Yeah, that's great. So how can we get a hold of you?
I actually have a central source that's like the easiest way to get hold of me, and that's my website, which is easy to remember, dreamwithdan.com.
That is an amazing website. Yes, you have kinds of helpful information on that website.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, dreamwithdan.com is all my social media links are there. I'm the same social media handle everywhere, which is Dreamer CEO. That's Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, all of the things. But my website, my podcast is there. I do blogs like at least 3-4 times a week. I've just been made an executive contributor to Brains magazine, so we'll put links to that on there. There's more information about reality transurfing. But dreamwithdan.com, everything you'll need, free resources, all the good stuff, all there.
That's great. Now I think we have some questions.
Okay.
Do we have some questions from the audience? If she's here. Oh yeah. I really appreciate you taking your time out.
No, my pleasure. This has been fun. Thank you.
So everybody says congratulations on your son.
Thank you.
How old is he now?
He is 10 weeks.
10
In
weeks.
fact, he's officially going to be 10 weeks tomorrow evening.
Oh, that's great. And did you have a gift for everybody?
Yes, I do actually. Going back to the question you asked about the one specific thing, I teach about a principle called alignment, which is just a way of looking at that thinking, feeling, and doing concept and pulling it all together. And I actually produced quite a comprehensive video that I think is very pertinent given what's going on in the world today. And it specifically talks about how you can use that to create recession-proof abundance. And this isn't just about recession, it's just about external stuff impacting our way to actually access abundance. And I've got a video that comprehensively goes through how we can navigate that with grace and ease. And we've shared that with you guys to give to the audience.
Oh, great. Well, thank you so much. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Tanya, aren't we creating reality all the time? What is the difference about what you do?
Mm-hmm.
And she says she looks forward to looking at your website later.
Okay, well, I can actually tackle that if we've got time to just quickly
answer
that question.
Definitely.
So I would say this, we are creating all of the time, yes, but we're also operating from our unconscious most of the time. And most of the unconscious programs that we're running on, we didn't actually input ourselves. They were unconsciously inserted. So yes, we're creating all of the time, but we're generally not creating from a space of conscious relationship to what we're creating. We're actually just unfolding what we've been pre-programmed to go out and create. And so what I kind of specialize in doing is connecting people to an idea that they can actually consciously choose what they're creating versus being subject to what they're unconsciously putting out. And that's what I do.
That's great. And then Cindy says, what do you have in place to stay ahead of the contrast of life?
Don't stay ahead of it. I integrate it and recognize that it's part of parcel of life. What I like to do is actually stay resourced to be able to navigate what comes up and see that, number one, something can only negatively impact me if I allow the energy of it to negatively impact me. And number two, I can actually pull advantage from everything, and everything can be for my benefit if I've created consciously a life that allows that to be the case. There's actually a principle in reality transurfing called the advantage principle that actually looks at us at seeing contrast as a positive thing, regardless of what it looks like. To understand that properly, we need to look at the construct of reality that we're invited to look at through reality transurfing. But ultimately, I don't try and get ahead of something. I experience all of it, and I allow all of it to be for my benefit so that I can have advantage and continue to live an abundant, joyful, purpose-driven life.
That's great. Is there anything on your heart that I haven't covered today that you think is important that you want to share with our audience?
I just want to say thank you to everyone for showing up. I know that you put together some really badass speakers over the course of this, and I really encourage everyone to make sure that every time one of us comes up and has an interview with you, they just find one thing. The likelihood that you're going to remember everything, no matter how many notes you take, just find one thing that you can apply from these things, and just do that with grace and compassion, recognizing that you're human. You're not going to be switched on all of the time. There's only so much you can process, but you can enjoy the adventure of seeing what you do and what you don't, and don't get too caught up in taking it seriously.
Oh, that's great. That's great advice. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on today and for being here, and
Thank you for having me.
bring your gifts, and thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You have a blessed day today.
And you too.
And please stay in touch.
Oh, definitely, 100%.
Okay, thanks, Daniel.
Bye.
Bye-bye. My gosh, he's very informative, that man. The next speaker that we have is Marcus Hall. He is a Christian financial advisor, and he's also an author. He is ready and waiting for us.
Good morning.
How are you, Mark?
It's great to be here with you this morning.
It's good to have you. Thanks so much for coming on. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, by trade, I am a financial advisor and help folks with retirement planning, investments, that sort of thing. The cool part over the past couple of years in doing that, and also being a Christian, I've gotten involved with a group called Kingdom Advisors over the past few years that has really helped fuel a passion for stewardship for me, and to be able to share that message with others from a perspective of just what's really important in life, and trying to help find purpose in our lives, and trying to help grow spiritually and grow in the way that our Creator really meant for us to grow.
Oh, that's great. So how long have you been doing this?
I've been an advisor now for a little over 10 or 11 years, worked on the bank side a little bit before that. And I kind of have a varied past as well. I have several years in TV and broadcasting back in the background as well. And it's neat to see how all those things kind of work together, and how they all weave together over time to really to be able to fulfill the purpose in life. Yeah.
So share with me how you transitioned from, or share with us how you transitioned from broadcasting to the financial end of it.
I get that question more than you may think. But it's pretty cool, because there's really not that much of a difference when it comes to really being able to talk with people, relate with people. It may be different things we're talking about, but it's funny because on the news side of things, and I did a lot of sports broadcasting and reporting too. And so thankfully that was more joyous times. But in the news part, if you're seeing someone with a camera and a microphone, it may not be your best day in life either. Things going on. And so it's really being able to develop trust with folks, and being able to have them share information with you that we needed, either for a news story, sports story, a feature story, or now when I'm talking to folks about really being able to open up to me about things they don't talk to other people about. They don't talk to their kids about. They don't talk to their parents about, or friends about. It's really something very personal to them as far as their money and their plans and things like that going on in their lives.
Yeah, that's true. So would you say that financial planning is your gift? Would you say that that's your gift and your calling?
What I have seen and what I've discovered is being able to get into the weeds with folks, and really, I like to specialize in comprehensive financial planning, of really helping folks make decisions and figure out what's important to them in their lives, what their values are, because that really helps our conversation of trying to figure out what is it you need to be doing to be preparing for all these different things that may be going on. What I have found is that I believe that's really part of my ministry, in being able to share the values and being able to share. A lot of people may not realize that I believe the best, well, I don't believe, I think it's the truth. Best financial advice really comes from biblical principles in doing things the right way, and doing things in the way that were designed for us to do.
Right. So I have to ask, what is one common myth that you hear about your profession or field that you want to debunk?
What is one common myth? I think it's one of those industries that, because of a few bad apples from the financial advisor standpoint, it really can grow into a distrust of maybe an industry-wide group of people. And I think the way that people think about financial advisors, I believe that trust factor has gone down over the years because of certain things. When you see on Wall Street and you see national stories and things like that happening, it can really help you to go, I don't know about that. But what I always advise people to do is to, whether it's me or somebody else, is to find that person that you trust, that you can tell has the reputation, but also wants to help you, and that you trust to share these things with and be able to talk with, that you can understand is on your side in trying to figure these things out. And there are still those folks out there, and a lot of us, who are trying to do things the right way and trying to help you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve.
But how do you find somebody you can trust?
A lot of times I will tell folks, don't sit down with just one person. Make sure to have something to compare to. Sit down, if you're looking for someone to work with, look at 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different people and sit down to talk about what you're going to find. A lot of times in conversation, it's just like anything else as far as matching up friends or folks that you want to spend more time with. You're going to discover some things you like or don't like, or trust or don't trust in that conversation. And I think it's that experience of really talking to folks. But I think too, ask your friends or ask your family, who are you using that maybe you've used? Get some stories. It's like anything else. It's really going to help if you hear from some experiences with folks. It's really going to help you developing that trust. And a referral from a friend or a family member always comes in and already kind of stepping over that first level of trust that we need to get over, because you got somebody that you know and trust saying, hey, this is someone you may need to get in front of and talk to.
Yes, that's true. So what is the company that you're involved with? Stewardship, help me out here.
Well, and there's the company that I work with in my everyday life. And then there's what I think what we're here to talk about more today is more of a personal ministry that I've started over the past year. And everything kind of comes under the stewardship mindset.
Yes.
Umbrella. And it's about making sure that our focus and perspective is in the right place so that we can make right decisions for us, making sure that we're aligning our values with what's truly important to us, and that our behavior actually reflects what is important to us over time. And so what's happened with this ministry is I really saw a need. I kind of discussed earlier my passion for stewardship. And a lot of times people think about that as only being a money thing. And it's not taught very well in churches a lot of times as to what stewardship really is. And that's one of the reasons I think I saw an opportunity there, was to help start really kind of showing biblically, what does that really mean? How can that really help us in not just growing spiritually, but also making better decisions as we go through life?
Can you expand a little bit more on that?
I definitely can. I
Not
wrote a
so
book
much.
about it. We can expand a lot. A lot of times what we see is, and I think I use the example in the book of, if you are a churchgoer, I can almost picture the time that you had a great praise and worship part of the service. Usually we sing and we kind of get in that mood and get the service going. Everything's feeling good. It's really kind of leading you up to being receptive to what you're going to hear now from the pastor. And you get done and you see that the topic today is on stewardship. And I can see eyes rolling immediately when that happens, because the first thought for most people is, okay, what are we buying? What are you wanting to pay off? What are we raising money for? And unfortunately, that's the reason stewardship comes up most times in most churches. And what happens is it really develops almost a guilt to parishioners and to believers in almost making folks have to give for certain reasons. And what I want to try to do, you kind of asked the question about debunking myths. What I want to do with this ministry and this book is just looking at a holistic approach at what stewardship really is, and the fact that money is a big part of that because we're gifted with every dollar we have. It's a gift from God. And it's up to us to determine with him and with the Holy Spirit guiding us, how do we spend that? And what do we do with that money? There's only so many ways we can spend and use that money, but it also comes with the different gifts that we have. It comes with every minute of time that we're gifted with on this earth, that through this process, it's really being able to find our purpose that God has for us that I think will allow us to kind of break through what you're focusing on so much here is breaking through sometimes these barriers that really sometimes we set up for ourselves out there, or that especially Satan is setting up for us that wants us to try to understand there's no good here. There's nothing for us to learn here, when that's just a lie of Satan and a lie of this world. In that if you are watching this, if you're participating in this, you're here and created for a purpose in life, and you have your Creator who is there with you, wanting you to understand what that is. But it takes us time to get to know him and get to know what he wants for our life. And I use that same analogy as if you're married, if you just good friends that you've met along the way that you've gotten to know better. How did you get to know them? You spent time with them. You talked with them. You found out what was important to them, what was on their minds. That's the same way in this, is that we have to spend time in Scripture. We have to spend time in prayer. We have to learn what's important to God so that we can change our thinking and align our values and our thinking to his.
So you mentioned the barriers. So what is this question I've been asking everybody? What's one main, if there is one main method that you believe can help people break through barriers that they have? And any of the, what I think are four main quadrants of life: health and relationships, their time and money freedom, their wealth, or their vocation.
You know, I think that what I was talking about a minute ago really brings all those things into light, in that sometimes we allow, a lot of times, and I do this too, and I am just as guilty as anyone else, as believing the lies of this world, of trying to look at comparing myself to other people, at looking to see what the world accepts that may be true and may not be really true and accurate. And being able to say, all right, what should my worldview, what should that really be? Because when I'm able to focus in on what I was created for and what my purpose is in life, now I'm starting to align myself with what my Creator wants me to know and how he wants me to act. And in doing that, I believe that actually helps you cross barriers, whether it be relationship, whether it be financial, whether it be whatever those things are you're talking about. It encompasses every part of your life when you're able to grow in that direction. It doesn't mean, and this is when we get into the Christian stuff, that this is, it's not prosperity gospel stuff where if you do what God tells you to, you're going to be rich by the world's standards. That's a flat out lie. That is not accurate, because God chooses different avenues and different roads for each of us. But whoever's watching today, it means you either have a phone, a computer, internet access. You're already in the top 10% of world wealth. So you have something you've been blessed with, that now there's a purpose for you having that now we're called to do something with that and to give back to his kingdom in some way.
Yeah, I completely agree. So is there anything that's on your heart that you feel that the audience needs to hear that I haven't mentioned or brought up during our time together today?
I really feel like that, especially the time that we're in right now of kind of recuperating from what we've all been through in 2020 and the start of 2021, and just everything that has just been new and probably most times not good. And we have seen maybe losing loved ones around us, losing careers or time at work and having to cut back on certain things there. I mean, it just seems like there's been so much bad over the past few months. And I just want folks to realize that if you were only concentrating and focusing on what this world has to offer, you're going to be in for a bad response from that. And I want to encourage folks, as you want to grow, I believe the way to do that is to grow in this way of growing to understand, what is it that God created me for? Because each one of us has a purpose. If you are breathing, there is still a purpose for you living. And so if things have been going bad and you just can't, you've lost relationships, whatever the fact may be, whatever may be going on in your life, I want you to understand that there is something that you're meant to do and a purpose you're meant to feel. And I want you to go down that path of figuring out what that is. And when you do that and you look to your creator for that answer, I believe that it just opens up a whole new focus and just literally scales falling from your eyes and being able to see things a totally different way. And that's all it takes sometimes, is your perspective and how you're seeing things to totally change things around in your life. So that's what I want to encourage you to do.
Yeah, that's very, very good advice. I'll see if there's any questions from the audience. Maria, do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, there's one from Tanya. What are some of the biblical principles in regards to finances?
Well, that's a great question. And a lot of folks are surprised when you realize that the Bible has actually over 2,300 pieces of scripture, verses that deal with stewardship, finances. And what I've learned in actually going through some studies over the past few years is really every aspect of what I do with folks. It is everything from debt to saving to planning to giving. The Bible is chock full of those things. And one of my favorite, I've got two favorite places I like to go, and James 1:5 is one of those. In that if you're asking that question, I think you're looking for wisdom and looking for answers there. James 1:5 tells us that if we're truly looking for wisdom, God tells us just to ask him. Just get down on your knees and get in prayer and just ask him. He wants to share this information with us. He wants us to know what this is, but he's wholly willing to do that for us if we're willing to look at it from his point of view and to really say, hey, I want to do things your way and stop doing things my way every day. Another one has to do with giving that I really like is basically in Malachi. I think it's Malachi 3:10, where God is talking about the tithe and giving and how important that is. And the fact that if you do this, I will open up the floodgates of my blessings for you more than you can imagine. And this is the only time in scripture where God says, test me on this. If you're wondering what you're meant to do, giving is one of them. And giving financially is one of them. And that's the reason there's so many verses, I think, in the Bible, is because he knew we were going to be hard-headed about it. And we needed to get that lesson across. And that's why there's so many mentions, but that's for us, not for him. That's for us there, because he knew that was going to be a tough one for us to understand from a greed and selfishness standpoint. But you can't outgive God. And I love him saying there, test me on this, do this my way, and see if I'm not telling you the truth here. So you can find many verses across, and you can do simple Google searches for certain topics, whether it be saving or giving or debt. All of them are very good. And I really encourage you to kind of take a deeper look if there's a certain aspect there that you're looking for. Just do a little bit deeper dive on that. And I think you'd be surprised how many places you find these things mentioned and talked about.
Oh, great. And you have a free gift for our audience, don't you?
I do. Yeah. What I'd love for you to do, if this is something that interests you, and along these lines, again, I want to make mention that when I talk about stewardship, it is not just about money. It is about every aspect of our lives and making the decisions every day that I think can help us not just know God better, but to help us see that we have a purpose every day. And so what I encourage you to do, the book is called Spiritual Wealth, a 40-day journey to developing stewardship mindset. And that's an important thing. Stewardship Mindset is the website at stewardshipmindset.com. You can go there and actually download the first 4 days of the book there, because I want you to understand, before you purchase, I'd love for you to take a look and see, hey, is this really what I think it is here? And what we do with that is we start going through and understanding exactly what stewardship is, starting to align our minds to what God wants us to know. And then we start living that out, because you can't change behavior until you understand the truth and understand what it is you're trying to base that on. So we go through that first and then lead up to, now it's time for me to actually apply this to my life, to my living, to my giving, to my planning, to getting debt paid down, paid off, to experience that freedom in life, of having that credit card, that house paid off down the road, and to move into a place of being able to spend your money and your time on things that you were designed to spend your money and time on.
Right, that's great. Well, I thank you so much for your information, your insight, your biblical knowledge, and everything that you brought here today. And it's been very, very informative. I hope that we've dropped the links to how to get a hold of you in the chat, and I really appreciate your time.
And feel free to, if you've got questions or anything else, feel free. There'll be an email on the website as well that you can send to as well. I think it's info@stewardshipmindset.com.
Okay. I think Maria will drop that link in there too.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mark, so much. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks. You too.
Thanks.
Okay. Wow. So much information. Loved it. Our next speaker is Gretchen Heido. They call Gretchen the coach's coach. She is absolutely amazing. She's very well known in Los Angeles, the LA area. She's a certified master coach through the International Coach Federation. The keynote speaker, and like I said, she is the coach's coach. Oh, I don't know if she's here yet. So she will be coming up. And if anybody hasn't had a chance to be on this whole time or watch the whole time for all of the speakers, you can purchase the VIP package. It's $47, I think, for the first 2 days. And then after that, it does go up to $119. So you'll want to be able to, if you had any friends or anything that wasn't able to watch the whole conference, then you'll want to let them know about that option. And then, like I said, it goes up to $119 after 48 hours. So, gosh, what I have to ask, what was everybody's favorite part between the different speakers? We had Steph. She was absolutely amazing. I loved how, gosh, she was born with those challenges, and then from the very beginning, and how she's just overcome so much and has such great personality, and just insightful. And then Daniel, he travels all over too. So both of those coaches just travel everywhere. His website is amazing too. He's got a lot. Both of them are just, all of my coaches are absolutely amazing. So, and then all of the information that the biblical information that Mark just shared, I didn't know a lot of that stuff. So, oh, there's Gretchen. Oh, you're muted still.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Gretchen. Welcome. How are you?
Wonderful. So good to see you.
It's good to have you.
Really excited.
I just shared with everybody, you are the coach's coach.
I am the coach's coach. That's the truth. And I see some of my coaches here.
They've all been, so why don't you share with us, tell us about yourself and how you've come to be the coach's coach.
Oh, fantastic. I sure will. You know, becoming the coach's coach. So, oh, someone's saying, can I increase my volume? Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We can hear you now.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You know, and I think more people are going to be jumping on. They didn't think I was going on for another 15 minutes, but I'm happy to chit chat and talk and tell you all about it. So the coach's coach, I got into this industry about 6 years ago officially. And I went to a training school, Life Purpose Institute, to become a coach myself. And from there, one of the instructors said, "You really should teach." And I thought, maybe. And then I thought, okay, I will, because I always fall into my opportunities, and I did teach and I loved it. I had no idea that I was a teacher. I love teaching grownups. I do not love teaching small children. So the grown-up thing is fabulous, and watching coaches like get it and get their own aha moments and really like fall into it is so fun and wonderful. And what happened was I also became a part of the International Coach Federation. And on that journey, I became a master coach. And so some of the things that I do is I mentor coach for coaches, and I do marketing with coaches. I help them launch their business. And then one day a coach that I coach said, "You're the coach's coach." And I thought, oh, yes, I am. So I just coined it. You can be anything you want.
That's great. I love that. So you just took it
I just took it
on, and that was it. That is great. So that was your aha moment?
Not necessarily an aha moment. I mean, it's just one moment along the windy road to coaching.
So I want to hear your big aha moment. You gotta share with me. I want to hear your big aha moment.
So aha moment in which area? There have been so many aha moments. Are we talking career and coaching? Or are you like which thing?
Yes, I want to hear your big, how I have to take a drink, sorry. Yes, I'm trying over here. How you came into, I want to hear your big career and coaching aha moment.
Well, so what happened for me was this. I was a publicist, a trained publicist for many, many years. And PR is a wonderful field to be in. It's full of people and communication and reaching out and connecting. And I was in Texas. I live in Los Angeles, but I was in Texas with a client, and I was with their executive board. And the chief board of directors said to me, "You should look into being an executive coach." And I was like, yeah, okay, great. And kept doing what I was doing. 3 days later, a woman that I mentor, I love mentoring women on their road. She said to me, "You should have been a therapist." And I thought, well, how interesting is that? And I told her, you might be right. I was 40 at the time. And I said, but I'm never going back to school to do all of those things. Like, forget it. And she said, "You should coach." And I was like, what is this coaching thing? 2 times in 48 hours? So I went and found out what coaching was. And when I realized that I had been a natural coach my entire life, and that you truly could make an income from it, that I was already doing it all day long anyway, I thought, I should do that. And that was my aha moment, and really led me down my path to going to school, which led to becoming the coach's coach. I coach a ton of men though, too. They love my directness and the direct personality. And I coach a lot of executives and just people with any sort of transition. When people say, "What do you do?" It's like, well, it's complicated. I just help this client do this thing, and I just help this other client do that thing. So it's not a one size fits all.
That's great. I love that, because that's kind of what happened to me too. It was like, what is this coach thing? I'm doing it.
Yes, exactly.
That's so funny. So what inspires Gretchen to be her best self?
Many things inspire me. Part of my inspiration is I'm just a very driven person by nature. I really like anything that's a challenge, and I like to do the next hard thing. And so I see Cindy in the background. She's got some certificates on the wall, it looks like. Congratulations, Cindy, since you were in the classes. I love certificates on the wall. I love doing the next hard thing. But deeper than that, what inspires me is, I believe that we were really all put here to do something different, and it's purpose, it's purpose work. And I have a God kind of given inspiration that I really want to do the work that God called me to do. And you can call God whatever you want. It doesn't, however you subscribe or don't subscribe to that. But, for me, it was like, what's my true calling? And so when I get up every day, I want to be the best version of myself. I want to go out and really help the people that I'm going to talk to. So I prepare. I think about everyone that I'm going to be in front of. I don't just wing it. I want, even, with getting the invitation, I wanted to be thoughtful about what I was going to say. I want to show up in a way that's going to make a difference, because the world really doesn't need more noise. What we need is to change. We need to figure out what our truest and highest potential level is, and then be brave enough to step into that. And so that part about creating the bravery, that's one of the things that inspires me. And I've got these teenage boys, they're always watching. I want them to feel inspired. They're not very inspired. They're 14 and 17. They don't care much about what I have to say, but they will be one day, and they care some, but I want them to feel inspired that, there's more out there. It doesn't have to be the thing that people tell you it needs to look like. There's a lot of different things to try, many different roads. And so when I can help people figure that out and to stop feeling badly about the shoulds, that's inspiring.
Yes, that is.
Now I'm going to take a drink.
Yes, please do. So how did you find your gift? When did you realize what your gift was, and how did you find it? Tell me about that.
I think it's a trick question, because I think we have so many gifts, so different gifts at different times. I've always been a talker. I found that out every time I would go to class and get my name put on. Every day it was the gift that kept on giving at the principal's office. So communication has been my thing really forever. I don't think I have even one report card that doesn't say talks too much to her neighbor. I can remember this really weird experience. It won't be too weird for what we're doing, but I was in second grade, and my teacher, she kept like separating with her husband. And so one minute she was Mrs. whatever her last name is, let's say Mrs. Smith. And then 2 days later, she'd be Mrs. I don't know, Brown. And then she'd be Mrs. Smith again. And she was very confused about if she was Mrs. Smith or Mrs. Brown. And she took me aside one day and told me all of her divorce problems. And I gave her lots of advice. So my gift, I know, totally
in the second grade.
I can remember fourth grade being in an elevator with someone. And that's when people used to actually speak. And as kids, we were trained. You had to look grownups in the eye and say, how are you? And this grown-up told me all about her bankruptcy that she was going through and her children getting taken away. And so I've had that gift forever, that people feel like they can say the thing to me inappropriately sometimes, but
That is so incredible.
It's bizarre, right? It's super bizarre.
That is so fascinating. That's been your gift since you were young.
And what's interesting with that gift too is what I really learned from that is people have secrets, especially women, I think, that they feel ashamed of, and they're all trapped in their throat. And when someone really asks and wants to know, not that I really wanted to know in second and fourth grade, but when someone asks and wants to know, they want to say it. There's an invitation there. And so much of the work that I do with the gift that I think I have is really creating a space for people to break free from that shame and to not feel like the secret's such a big deal. It's sounds like you're just wearing your human skin to me, sounds like you did the best you could with what you knew to do at that time. Sounds like that's the way you needed to protect yourself in that moment. And it's not letting them off the hook, but it's letting them normalize it, because the truth is for women that we create a ripple effect wherever we go. And when we step into our greatness, we allow other people to do that too. And so I think that that's also part of that gift, that started with people being able to tell me things, but it really fine-tuned into helping people cross the barrier from the guilt, the shame, the I feel bad about myself, to the, oh, this is really just human stuff, the normalizing of it.
Yes, I think that's good. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
As women, we internalize a lot of it, and then comes the sickness. A lot of it.
Yes.
Wow, that's very good. So I have to ask you too, what is one main thing, if there is one? So far, I have yet to find one of my speakers come up with just one that you believe can help people break through their barriers in any of the four main quadrants of life. You know, their health and well-being, their love and relationships, their vocation, or their wealth.
You know, I think it's the same thing for all of them. When we look at, and yeah, you're right. I don't have just one, but I have one that I'll say first. You know, I really believe that one of the things that really happens is we put up these protection mechanisms and we behave in certain ways because of these protection mechanisms. So let's say that procrastination is the way that that protection mechanism comes up for us in any of those four quadrants, probably all of the four quadrants. To ask yourself, what has this done for me? How has it protected me and served me? You know, maybe it's kept you from looking bad. Maybe it's kept you from fear of success or fear of failing, you know, but what has that protection mechanism done for you that once you see that and you can honor it and really sit with it and realize that, oh, I don't need to behave that way anymore. I have better techniques. That often is the very thing to give it just a little bit of room and to give you a 5% shift in perspective. And when that happens, those barriers are less of a barrier because there's a way in.
Yeah, that's true. What is one major barrier that you've had to break through, and how did you break through that?
I've had so many barriers that I've had to
I'm
break
sure you have.
Oh my God.
If you can think of one major one, and how did you get through that?
Well, this is a little funny, embarrassing, and very true. I grew up in a family that said there's good questions, bad questions, and stupid questions. So in our family, we never asked any questions because we didn't want to be stupid, because our family, the currency was intellect. How this played out is that I just didn't ask questions. My entire family, there's like 30 of us, we are bulldozers. We bulldoze our way through life, pretending we know things that we do not know. And it sometimes have not been equipped with the ability to ask for help or to get resources because there's good questions, bad questions, and stupid questions, and nobody wants to look stupid. So as a coach, your whole job is asking questions. You have to ask questions. If you can't ask questions, then you can't be a coach. It's just kind of like fundamental rule number one. Well, I had a really hard time with that, you know, and so I had to learn how to ask questions, and A, not think that I was stupid for asking, and B, not think that the other person was stupid for answering, because it was twofold. You know, it's kind of like, well, of course I already know your answer because I live in your world all day long, and my world, and the neighbor's world, and everybody's world. And oh, P.S., I have to listen to your answer, and now you're telling me something. You know, so I got a coach. I worked on the thing with receiving information and asking questions. And here's the other thing that happened. This is actually pretty cool. My grandparents were freedom fighters in Hungary, and they escaped from their communist country with 4 out of their 5 children. The other one was born here in the USA. And when I went and I took kind of a pilgrimage, I took the kids and my husband last summer, and not last summer, summer before COVID. And we went and we got to see like the whole deal of what was going down. And we were having lunch with one of my cousins, and I asked him something because I have the ability to ask questions now. And he was like, "You can't ask that." And I was just like, of course I can't. I'm in Hungary and this is a stupid question. What he said was, no, these things were life and death situations. If you asked questions when your grandfather lived here, you'd be taken around back and shot. Like, so it was a protection mechanism. So one more time, the questions and making us look stupid, feeling stupid if you asked, it wasn't that. It was keep your mouth shut and your head down and pretend that you know so that you can stay alive. So he never sat us down and said, oh, this comes from the old country and I was a fighter and here you go. But that's how it played out. I have an aunt still who can't listen to her GPS because she feels like she's asking it a question.
Oh my word.
Yeah, right?
That's just, and that's how your family was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And then look how it rolled over into your work. That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's something that you really had to overcome. Or you weren't going to be in your profession or your gift.
Well, you can't even really be in much of a relationship.
No, you can't.
You know, parent kids, you can't like, it's just rough all the way around.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there anything on your heart that you feel that we should share with the audience that I haven't covered today?
Well, I don't know if it's okay with you, but I kind of think we should open it up to the audience and see if there's anything on their heart that they want to ask.
Yeah, I was just going to do that next.
Yeah.
Great.
That's it. That's all that I've got, but I'm happy to answer anything if anyone wants to ask.
So Maria, can we go ahead and is there any questions from the audience?
Not yet.
And you have a free gift, don't you, Gretchen? Do you want to share with us what your free gift is?
Yeah, for anyone who wants to go deeper, talking about, you know, your mindset or the thing that's blocking you or where you feel stuck, my gift is 45 minutes of my time with you, where we can take a look at that one thing that's really getting in your way and dedicate, you know, that time and come at it together and co-create something of a different way of being for you.
Wow, that's an incredible gift, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we just dropped the link too in the chat. So they'll be able to get a hold of you that way and schedule.
Fantastic.
So that's wonderful. Well, I appreciate your time today. And Tina has a question. As a coach, what was the most effective way to refrain from giving advice versus just asking open-ended questions?
It takes a lot of practice. So, you know, what I figured out how to do was to pay attention to, was I trying to sound impressive or was I trying to be helpful? Sometimes I know at the beginning of coaching, I really just wanted to be impressive. I wanted to get my client to their end result. And I felt very responsible for their results. You know, that we feel like, oh my God, they're paying me this money. And now there's pressure because they're paying me money. And it's like the hourglass has started at the, you know, hour mark and we only have this many minutes, ready, set, go. And I found that I wasn't listening, that I was going too fast. And that if I could slow down my client, most of the time they had their answer. And what it looks like today is if I have something that is helpful, I write it down. I wait and see what answers the client comes up with on their own. And if it still feels important, then I might say, Cindy, I've got something for you. Can I share it? Cindy will say yes. Your clients want you to tell them anything, something. Stop asking me these questions. And then you drop it and it's short. It's like, you know, wondering, and you say the thing, how does that fit for you? And you get permission at the end because we never want our clients to people please. They pay us. And so they feel like we're the authority when coaching is different than any other modality. We want them to be the authority in their life and giving them the space and the respect to get there is really, really important. And to know that we acknowledge that they can do their own work. It might not be fast. When we ask a question and they don't know and they say, well, what do you think? It's very tempting to tell them. It's like, finally, permission to speak. But the truth is when you turn that back around and you say, it doesn't have to be fast. Drop into your heart. What's there? That's what the beauty of coaching is. Does that answer the question?
It did for me. Tanya, I'm sure. Yes, she said thanks.
You're welcome, Tanya.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. It's following your heart. Listen to your heart and not so much the time. Time factor. Is there any more questions from Gretchen, the coach's coach? I really appreciate all of your time that you've spent with us. And thank you for your free gift.
You got it.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say to everybody?
No, but what a nice group of faces. Thank you to the people who, you heard about this and you showed up, and for those sweet faces that I see and those of you that I know, I'm sending you such love on your journeys. It's really good to be in the space with you. I've missed you. Think about you ladies. And, thank you for having me on this today and for asking. It's much appreciated.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, and for everybody that we can't see that is here. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, if you've got friends or family that you know would enjoy this, you can purchase the VIP, and it's available within the next 48 hours for $47, or after that it does go up in price. So, and you have all of the coaching, or all of the speakers on there. So, okay, well, I appreciate you, and thank you so much for coming. Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, you got it.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Take care.